to start with, you're going to want to bleach your hair. Your hair probably looks like this dark brown color when you first start. So what you're going to do is you're going to get a pack of bleach powder and developer. If you are doing this yourself, I do not recommend going over a 20 or a 30 volume to prevent damage to your scalp. So you're going to open your bleach powder and you're going to pour it into a non-metallic bowl. That is very important. I don't know why, but everybody stresses it. Non-metallic for the bleach. And then on the back of your bleach powder, it will tell you the ratio of developer to powder. For this one, I believe it is 2 to 1. So there are 7 teaspoons of bleach powder in here, and there are 14 teaspoons of developer in this bottle. I pre-measured them to make this easier. So you're going to pour them in and mix it together with your tint brush. And once you've got a pretty good consistency on it, it'll be looks kind of spongy, to be quite honest. It'll be a little thick, that's okay. You're going to want to start bleaching your hair. So I use the tint brush usually for my hairline right here and across the sides. That way I don't end up with hair dye or bleach all over my face. If you do get it on your face, just wipe it off with a wet wash rag and move on. So you're going to want to thoroughly saturate your hair with the bleach. So I am using little wig pieces, but it's the same concept as it would be with your own hair. And then put that back in there. If you need to get in with your hands, make sure you're wearing a glove so that way it doesn't get on your fingers. Just kind of rub it in. And then once you're done with that, you will let the bleach sit for 45 minutes is the developing time. Do not go over 45 minutes or else you also risk damage to your scalp. So once the 45 minutes is up, you will rinse your hair with cool water. Make sure it's cool. It just feels better than hot water. You can go ahead and shampoo it, but do not condition it before you put in your hair dye or else your hair dye won't stay as well. So once you've got it rinsed out and bleached and everything, it should look something like this. Should be blonde-ish. If it's orangish, it's okay. You can buy a tinting shampoo, like purple shampoo, if you want to. But if you're using a dark color, it doesn't really matter as long as it is a lighter brown than what you started with. So you're going to do the same thing with the hair dye that you did with the bleach. You can pour it into a bowl like you did with the bleach if you want. I have bleach in this bowl, so I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to squeeze it onto the hair, maybe. This bottle's almost empty. Squeeze it onto the hair, and once again, you can get in with the tint brush and do your hairline around your ears, anything like that. If you don't care about making a mess, you can just use your hand completely. Once again, you're going to thoroughly saturate your hair with the hair dye until it is completely covered, and then you are going to let it sit. The bottle for this says 30 minutes. However, with semi-permanent dye, you can leave it in pretty much as long as you want because it doesn't really do any damage. This one especially, Arctic Fox, has conditioner in it, so the longer you leave it in, the more it conditions your hair, and it smells really nice. And then after your processing time is up, you will wash it again in cool water with a sulfate-free shampoo, which prevents your hair dye from bleeding out so that you don't lose it all, because that sucks. And then once you are done rinsing it out with cool water, you can condition it now if you want to. And I will show you what the final results look like when we get back from our break. Hopefully you guys enjoy the color I chose.
Don't you hate it when it's raining and you've left your rain boots at home? Well, that's not a problem anymore with Stay Dry shoe caps. With Stay Dry shoe caps, you can play in the rain all you want with no fear of wet socks or squelchy shoes.
Hi, welcome back to Hair Dye DIY. Before the break, I showed you how to mix bleach powder and the bleach so that you have bleach for your hair. Once again, reminder, don't go over 20 volume if you're doing this yourself at home because you don't want to burn yourself. Make sure that you're rinsing your hair with cool water in between these steps and not conditioning them until after you are done with the hair dye. So now that you've got your hair thoroughly saturated and covered in the hair dye, you can go ahead and let it process for however long you want. Like I said, this bottle says 30 minutes. However, semi-permanent dye doesn't damage your hair that much, so you can leave it in pretty much as long as you want. I normally leave it in about an hour and a half to 2 hours, just because it seems to make it stay longer. And then once you are done with that, you will go ahead and rinse your hair out again with cool water. Do not wash it with sulfate-free shampoo this time, especially if you have bleached it before. This just helps the hair dye stay longer. The more time you go in between dyeing your hair and washing your hair, the longer your color will last. So when you are done, your color should look something like this. A nice purple or blue or green, whatever color you choose. And it should last up to, depending on the hair dye brand that you chose, it should last up to a month. Mine usually does, as long as you are washing it in cold water with sulfate-free shampoo. You can tell a sulfate-free shampoo if it is kind of shimmery when you look at it. And it'll also say sulfate-free shampoo on the back. Color Safe shampoo is also, usually it's sulfate-free, sometimes they lie. It's not sulfate-free and it's not color safe. And it will make your hair bleed really bad. On that matter, if you get hair dye on your counter and you make a huge mess, which I have done, bleach spray, like actual liquid bleach, like Clorox, usually takes it off pretty good. I wouldn't recommend using it on your skin. Use hot water and soap for that, and eventually it will fade out completely. When you are cleaning up, make sure that you don't, take that off because it's covered in hair dye. Make sure that you don't, just don't make any more of a mess than you have to. Go ahead and rinse your bleach out completely. Ideally, you should have done this before you moved on to dyeing your hair. Because the longer you let bleach sit, the more it develops on its own. If it is in a bottle that comes with the permanent hair dyes from the store, it will explode if you leave the lid on it. So make sure that you take the lid off and throw it away. Don't let pets or kids into it, obviously. And then, like I said, your hair color should last about a month with cool water and proper maintenance. The longer you let it sit without washing it, the longer your hair color will stay. If you want to do kind of an ombre effect, you can do more than one color, going down from the roots to the tips. Generally, the hair color will stay longer in your tips than anywhere else, and that's fine. You can redo it as soon as you want or as often as you want. I'm running out of things to say. So, yeah. I know. You can, so I'm going to talk about my favorite brands of hair dye because you see on this show I use Arctic Fox. However, I do not prefer Arctic Fox. It tends to wash out of my hair really fast. Even with the cool water and the sulfate-free shampoo, it only lasts about 2 weeks maybe. I prefer Manic Panic brand over anything else because it tends to last the longest. I have had several shades of Manic Panic last for almost a month and a half before I had to redo them, and generally Manic Panic fades to pretty colors. And the easiest way to change your hair color, you don't have to bleach your hair in between every single color if you don't want to, as long as you follow a color wheel. So if you go from blue to purple, like purple to, what's the next color to purple? Purple to like magenta, you don't have to bleach your hair in between. It'll cover it pretty well and it'll still look really nice. So I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope that this helps you dye your own hair at home. And we'll see you next time on Hair Dye DIY for some ombre tips.